A red planet hangs over Paris like a warning of the end of times. The world is already broken, cities have turned into deserts, resources are nearly depleted, and people no longer live with hope. They are just waiting to see how much time is left. But the strange thing is that this disaster was predicted years ago by a young boy. The movie begins with a young Paul telling his older brother Elliot about a dream. In that dream, Earth's resources disappear, and then a mysterious red planet appears in the sky. People begin calling it the Red Moon. For 4 years, humanity uses its energy to survive, but then the planet itself begins to close in, closer and closer to Earth. After giving humanity hope, it becomes the very thing that can destroy it. Paul also sees that only one person will be able to stop the Red Moon, but before that person can save the world, he disappears. At first, it seems like the strange imagination of a child, but years later, everything Paul saw becomes real. Paris is no longer the city it once was. It is a dry, empty wasteland. The sky looks sick. The streets are buried in dust, and above all, the Red Moon is clearly visible. It is now so close to Earth that if nothing changes, both worlds could be destroyed. In this desert, Paul W.R. runs alone. He looks scared, tired, and completely lost. As he moves through the wasteland, he keeps hearing the voice of a child inside his head telling him to keep running, not to be afraid, to completely destroy his fear. There is no child near him. The voice comes from inside his mind. Soon, Paul arrives at a settlement near one of the government-protected cities. After Earth's resources began to disappear, wars broke out everywhere. Governments built massive walled zones to protect the people they deemed important, while ordinary people were left outside in poor desert settlements. And even outside the walls, the military is everywhere. They have armed soldiers, checkpoints, and small drones watching people from the sky. Because of this, when Paul enters, he keeps himself hidden because he knows the government is looking for him. Every camera feels like an eye, every patrol like a trap, and he can feel his name cornering him again. He bumps into a man who apologizes and acts friendly, and Paul asks if there is anything he can buy because he needs a vehicle. The man takes him to his place and sells him a hover car. In this future, cars no longer run on normal tires. They float above the ground using power cells. During the deal, a military drone scans Paul. This is dangerous because Paul is no ordinary man. Paul is the missing astronaut everyone is searching for. 4 years earlier, Paul's father, Henry, was one of the most important scientists in the world. He helped humanity use the energy of the Red Moon, and for a short time, that energy became humanity's last hope. But when Henry realized the Red Moon was getting too close to Earth, he created a plan to destroy it. Probes and automated machines were sent toward the Red Moon, but none of them could cross its powerful magnetic field. Only Paul could. For some strange reason, the field did not affect him the same way it affected everything else. That made him the only person who could reach it and complete the mission. So Henry sent his own son to destroy the Red Moon. But Paul never completed the mission. He disappeared before the launch. The truth is, Paul did not want to destroy it. To him, the Red Moon was not just a dead planet. He believed it was alive, connected to him, calling him, showing him something no one else could understand. No one believed him. To the government, Paul was humanity's final weapon and he had fled. That is why he is hiding now. After buying the vehicle, Paul leaves the settlement, but the car suddenly stops in the middle of nowhere. The dealer ripped him off. The power cell is almost empty. The military drone returns to confirm his identity, so Paul draws a weapon and shoots it down before it can send his data back to the main system. Left with no choice, he pushes the damaged vehicle toward a small nearby repair shop. The shop belongs to Elma. She checks the car and says the power cell needs to be replaced. She can fix it, but it will take time. If he's lucky, maybe 3 days. Paul says he doesn't have 3 days. Elma tells him there is nothing she can do, as it is no small repair. In this dying world, even a single working part is hard to find. While Paul waits, a news report is broadcast. Everyone is watching the launch of the Aurora mission, a final attempt approved by the United Nations to reach the Red Moon and destroy it before it is too late. The chosen astronaut is Elliot, Paul's older brother. Since Paul disappeared, Henry has turned to Elliot as humanity's last hope. Paul watches as the Aurora launches into space, and for a moment, it seems like humanity might still have a chance. But as soon as the Aurora reaches the Red Moon's magnetic field, everything goes wrong. Elliot loses control, the signal cuts out, and the transmission disappears. For the people on Earth, the last hope has vanished into the sky. No one knows if Elliot survived, and the red moon keeps getting closer. Paul leaves the shop shaken. Outside, Elma gives him a small bag with a smiley face before he walks away. Alone, memories of Paul's childhood return. He remembers his sick mother and how his father believed the red moon's energy could save her. He remembers being different from the other kids, different even from Elliot. Paul could feel things before they happened. He saw visions. He heard voices. Over and over, he saw the same impossible image in his mind, a forest that should no longer exist, because most plants, trees, and animals have already disappeared from Earth. But Paul believed that forest was real. He believed the red moon was connected to him somehow. That is why, when Henry decided to destroy the red moon, Paul tried to stop him. He tried to explain that destroying it might not save humanity, but instead might destroy the only answer they had left. But Henry didn't listen, and Elliot never understood it either. To Elliot, Paul was strange, weak, and unreliable, perhaps even a coward. Now, the Aurora mission has failed, Elliot is missing, and the world has lost its last public hope. People everywhere are starting to accept that the end is near. Back at the repair shop, Elma sees a news report about Paul. Only then does she realize that the quiet stranger who came to her shop was Paul W.R., the missing astronaut, the only person who might still be able to stop the end of the world. Elma grabs her gun and goes out to find him. But before she leaves, she sees her father standing there, trying to apologize for the way he treated her mother, for the violence that made her leave. Elma doesn't answer him. There is no time for old pain now. She turns her back on him and heads into the wasteland, searching for Paul before the military finds him first. Elma finally finds Paul near a pile of scrapped vehicles. He is digging through the wreckage, hoping to find a working power cell for his car. She approaches and tells him she knows who he really is and wants to go with him. But Paul refuses. He tells her to leave and stay away from him, because anyone near him will only end up in danger. Meanwhile, far out in the wasteland, two children are playing in an abandoned area when something falls from the sky. They run toward it and find a damaged capsule, half buried in the dirt. Inside is a man who is barely breathing. It's Elliot. He survived the failed Aurora mission. Elliot is taken back to the facility where he meets his father, Henry. Broken and ashamed, he apologizes for failing. But Henry discovers something even stranger. When Elliot reached the red moon's magnetic field, it changed his DNA. For several hours, his body was clinically dead, but somehow he came back. It is almost as if the red moon touched him and sent him back, changed. Back in the desert, Paul is still trying to repair his vehicle while Elma watches from a distance. Then, soldiers arrive to capture him. Paul fights back and escapes again. That night, Elma returns to her trailer and finds it in flames. Her father has set fire to everything she owned. Elma collapses. This was the only place she had left, but her father feels no guilt. He just stands there, as if her pain means nothing. The next day, Elliot arrives in the same area looking for Paul. Someone reported seeing him there, and Elliot wants Paul captured and sent back to the mission. Elma's father is nearby, so Elliot interrogates him. But Elliot is not the same man who left Earth. After returning from the red moon, something inside him has changed. He can step into people's minds, expose their guilt, and force them to act to their own detriment. He can slip into someone's head, pull their shame to the surface, and make them feel it like a sentence. When he interrogates Elma's father, he sees the cruelty and violence inside him. And since the man has no useful information, Elliot uses his power to punish him. He forces Elma's father to point the gun at himself. Elma sees her father die and screams in horror. Paul, who is still nearby, takes advantage of the chaos to steal a power cell from Elliot's vehicle. Then, when he sees Elma running in a panic, he cannot leave her behind. He pulls her into the car and speeds away. Elma begs him to take her with him. She says she will help him because a man traveling alone will draw attention. But with her, people might think they are just ordinary travelers, maybe even family. Paul hates it, but he knows she is right. So he lets her stay. Elma says she is running away to find her mother, who left years ago due to her abusive father. But this is not the whole truth. Later, Elma admits she doesn't even know where her mother is or if she is alive. She also confesses that she once betrayed Paul because of the bounty on his head. She thought turning him in could buy her a way out, a clean restart, a different life. But after traveling with him, she begins to see him differently. Paul is no longer just a wanted man to her. He becomes someone she truly wants to help. Paul has his own destiny. He wants to find the forest from his childhood visions, even though almost all trees and animals have disappeared from Earth. They arrive at a military checkpoint. Paul knows his face is everywhere, so Elma drives. She stays calm, acts normal, smiles at the right moments, and somehow manages to get them through. After that, they arrive at an old diner where Paul makes an important call using an old cord phone. He calls Henry. Paul tries one last time to explain what he believes. The red moon is not just a threat. It is connected to the balance of life on Earth. But Henry refuses to listen. For Henry, there is only one solution. Paul must return and destroy it. Soldiers arrive to capture him. One wears a heavy metal combat suit, making him almost impossible to beat. He attacks Paul brutally, and for a moment it looks like Paul stands no chance. Elma distracts the soldier long enough for Paul to hit him in the head, and they escape again. Elma is shaken, breathing heavily, realizing this is no game. She understands how dangerous Paul's world really is, but they are still being tracked. Elliot has sent a small spider-like robot after them, and through that machine, he can track their location. On the road, Paul tells Elma more about his past. He started seeing the future as a child. He tried to warn his father, but Henry never believed him. No matter what Paul saw, everyone treated him as if he were strange or unstable. To keep him hidden, Elma changes Paul's hair color. Meanwhile, Elliot arrives at the diner and interrogates the woman who owns the place. As he searches her mind, he finds her dark secret. She had killed her husband. For Elliot, that is enough. He forces her to take her own life right in front of him and then continues hunting Paul. Paul and Elma drive into a violent storm filled with dust and lightning. Paul realizes someone is still following them and discovers the spider robot hidden inside the car. He destroys it. With the tracker destroyed, Elliot loses their location. They drive into the storm and take shelter inside an abandoned building, an old theater. A holographic screen shows images of the old world, animals that no longer exist, forests, green landscapes, oceans, and fragments of Earth from a time before everything died. Both are moved, as if they are looking at the ghost of the planet they were born on. Elma asks Paul if he has ever seen rain. Paul says yes, once. He still remembers the sound. Peaceful, soft, almost unreal. Then Paul sees something that freezes him. A forest. The same forest he has seen in his dreams since childhood. For years, Paul believed it was real. He thought finding it would prove he wasn't crazy, and that the red moon was showing him something important. But now it seems the forest was just part of an old recording. That shatters him. For the first time, Paul doubts everything. Perhaps the visions were just dreams. Perhaps his father was right. Perhaps he fled the mission for nothing. Elma tries to comfort him, but Paul yells at her. He is angry, scared, and lost. A short time later, Elliot arrives with soldiers. Elma warns Paul, and they form a desperate plan. Paul pretends to take Elma hostage and walks out with her, hoping that will confuse Elliot long enough for them to escape. But Elliot sees through the trick, attacks mercilessly, and Elma is gravely injured. Paul grabs her and runs while Elliot keeps chasing them. Even injured, Elma modifies the vehicle.
Hola, hermanito.
Puedo ser más bien. No tengas miedo.
When the soldiers arrive, Paul finally stops running. He surrenders. Paul is taken back to Henry. This time, he agrees to go on the mission, but he sets one condition first. Elma must be taken care of. Henry agrees. A few days later, Paul sits alone inside the rocket and launches toward the red moon. As Elma begins to recover, she finds Paul's sketchbook inside her jacket. As she examines it, she realizes his visions were not random. The sketchbook shows pieces of her entire life, including events that have already happened and moments that are still unfolding. In the sky, Paul's rocket approaches the red moon. Paul believes the planet is part of Earth's natural balance. When humans tried to exploit it, it reacted. When humans harmed it and tried to destroy it, the planet drew closer, almost as if it were defending itself. Now, Paul enters the red moon's magnetic field carrying the final nuclear warheads. Everyone on Earth believes he is going to finish the mission and destroy the planet. But Paul finally understands the truth. The red moon was reacting to humanity. So Paul makes his final decision. He changes course. Instead of firing, he takes manual control, cuts off communication, and destroys his own rocket in space. Paul sacrifices himself without harming the red moon. Down on Earth, Elma sees the explosion and collapses. But then, something impossible happens. The red moon begins to slowly move away from Earth. Paul was right. By refusing to attack it, he finally breaks the cycle. His sacrifice saves the world. Near the end, Elma looks again at Paul's sketchbook and finds one final image. It shows her standing in the rain. She holds the pages as proof that he was never crazy. He was just ahead of his time, and the sky finally answers in real time. A few moments later, rain begins to fall. For the first time in years, the Earth feels alive again, and that is where the movie ends.